So JSON, JavaScript object notation, and it's the next thing we're going to look at. So I'll just give you a second to read this Wikipedia. So we use JSON to transfer data, from one place to another. I'm sure you are all familiar with it. And one resource which is nice to know about is JSON Editor Online, and we learned about this over the summer. At least I did for the first time. And so you could come in here and fool around through JSON, and it helps you edit it. So that's kind of a nice resource to know about. And
especially since JSON's so picky.
Yeah.
It's very picky, so the JSON editor will help you find whatever mistakes, like
Yeah.
a quotation mark or something.
Yeah. Thank you. Good point. JSON's picky, and this will help you find your errors. So you can play around with that as you're putting together your JSON. And then here's JSON.org, which I don't know. Have you guys ever seen notation like that? Particularly this, man. This just looks like my son drew it. I don't know. So, but this is like where you can come to sort of read the official stuff about JSON, JSON.org, and then here are all the different languages and how they implement it, including Go. And so Go's right there, and it'll take you to package JSON just from right there, which we'll see in a second. So just passing that on. So here's package JSON. It implements encoding and decoding of JSON objects as defined. The mapping between JSON objects and Go values is described in the documentation for marshal and unmarshal functions. And so let's take a look at what you can do. Most of the time when you're working with JSON and Go, you're going to be using encoder or decoder or marshal and unmarshal. So what's the difference between those? Right? Well, encoder and marshal is going to take stuff to JSON, right? So you have an object or something and you want to move it to JSON. And decoder, unmarshal is going to bring it back from JSON, right? So you're taking JSON, you want to move it to a struct or something like that. And encoder, decoder is going to work with readers and writers. And marshal and unmarshal will work with slice of bytes, right? And so we'll see the official documentation of that in a second. But instead of boring you with like, hey, what's the official definition and everything, let's just look at, well, I am going to bore you with official definitions. We'll come back to them. Let's look at some code, right? So here I'm unmarshaling, and you can see unmarshal right there. But I have JSON data, and so I have backticks here for a raw string literal, right? Because I want to maintain spaces. And so it's just name, Todd McLeod. So I'm going to put that, unmarshal that, into a map with a key of string and a value of string. And so I just use JSON.unmarshal and then a slice of bytes, JSON data, and then put that into the object, right? And so then it will take this, turn it into slice of bytes, put it into the object, and there we go. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
You got any corrections? All right, just checking. I'm not always sure I use the right syntax in my English in describing things. So here, the difference between the previous code and this code is we went from string to string empty interface. Empty interface is a type, and kind of allows you to do dynamic type inside Go. And this now means, hey, I could take any type in here, whether it's a string or an int. And so here I'm able to unmarshal that and put that into there. So unmarshaling from JSON into an object. And here I'm putting JSON data into a slice of float 64. Unmarshal, slice of bytes, JSON data, slice float 64. And then here, taking this object will just hold anything, right? And so I'm unmarshaling that into here and checking the type down there. And so here, using a struct, so we have stock data struct returns float 64, and then this is so if I want to take JSON and put it into this, and I have like, so let me see, I have, a different name, then this will tell me, hey, here's my name in the JSON, and it'll help match what I want to put it into in my struct. So here I have returns, it's of type slice float 64, and what goes into that is lowercase returns. Does that make sense? So I could have completely different names, and I can map, like in my JSON, it's called this, but in my Go, it's called that, and this is where it gets mapped. What's the word for describing that? Do you know? There is one. I can't recollect it.
That thing is called like a tag or something.
Something like that, a tag or something like
Are
that.
you talking about what is called when you use a return statement, or?
This is kind of funny because the returns almost looks like, hey, I'm returning this, but that's the name of the field in the struct. And it's of type slice float 64. So that, when I brought this example up, I was like, that's kind of a funny example.
Okay.
Right? And here, we're putting that into it. So here we open up a file, and it's data.json. And so that gives me a pointer to a file. And since I open the file, I need to close it. And then I create, and I'm not supposed to use the word instance, though I can't remember what I'm supposed to say. I create a object, no, it's not an object. Anyhow, like I said, the syntax is I'm still trying to figure out how to say all of it. But, object of type stock data, right? So I'm creating a struct, an instance of my struct. And then here, JSON new decoder F, so I'm decoding the file, and decode it into this object. So let's go back and look at the official definitions of these. So we have func marshal and unmarshal, and you'll notice that right here we have a slice of bytes. When you marshal, a slice of bytes is being returned. So func marshal, and here is the parameter, and then these are the two returns, and it's returning a slice of bytes. So marshal returns a slice of bytes, and unmarshal takes a slice of bytes. So when we were looking at that code before, right, unmarshal, it takes a slice of bytes, so we had to kind of give it a slice of bytes. Takes a slice of bytes, unmarshal takes a slice of bytes, and then V interface, so empty interface means it'll take any type. Unmarshal parses the JSON encoded data and stores the result in the value pointed to by V. So the value gets stored here. Right, so here's unmarshal, it needs a slice of bytes, and it stores the result right here. And that, means put it in that address, put it at that location. So marshal and unmarshal, slice of bytes. And then encoder and decoder. Encoder writes JSON objects to output stream, and decoder reads and decodes JSON objects from input stream. So again, back here, readers and writers. Encoder, decoder, readers and writers. So here's the example from Godocs. So we have a JSON blob, and they're making it a slice of bytes right there, right? So they're saying, hey, make all this whole string here, make it a slice of bytes. And then there's a struct, name and order, and notice that the fields in this JSON object are name and order for each entry. And then we have animals, a slice of animals, so we're going to store animals in that. And so unmarshal, now we need to give it the slice of bytes with unmarshal. So here we're giving it the slice of bytes because right there it became a slice of bytes. In our previous example, right, we made it a slice of bytes when we were passing it in as opposed to up here. And down here in the Go doc example, it's making a slice of bytes up there. And then where do we want to store it? We're going to store it in animals, and then we could print it all out, and that's what we get.
Can I ask maybe a silly question just to be clear?
Yeah.
Back at that slide.
Which one?
The bracket after your backtick.
Right here.
Yeah. What is that? Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Making a JSON array.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, do we see this one? No, we didn't. You guys want to see it, or you want to look at those on your own? You got it? You want to look at it a little bit more? Somebody else want to explain one? Daniel, you want to explain one? No? Anybody? So you have create a struct, encode it as JSON, and write it to standard out. Create a JSON file, and then create a program that reads that JSON file into a struct and writes it to standard out. Create a program which can read a CSV file and write it as a JSON file. And so you might be like, whoa, how do I do that? Well, you could go watch Caleb's videos and he'll walk you through it. Or you could go to GitHub and you could find them all. I've already got them up there, so you could just dig through and grab them all. So it's all right if you don't, instantly grab it. You're just obviously gaining some exposure to it. And then as you work with it, you'll figure it out.